rid of. Plastic straws. You use them once, you throw them away. Plastic bottles. Plastic bottles are a toughie because when you go to someplace like South America, for instance, and you're worried about drinking water, you want to drink water out of the bottles. I have a hard time when I'm traveling, a really hard time. But when I'm not traveling, this is what I take with me. And I don't carry a purse, so I don't put it in a purse. I just literally carry it around. It's a pain in the tuchus, yeah, but that's what I do. And we all can do this. Because plastic bottles, single-use plastic bottles, are a real problem. Now, some of them get recycled, yes, but not that many. Now, there's a new study out, and I don't know enough about it to really tell you more about it, but there's a new study out that is talking about microfibers. They've done a study and looked at the waters in the ocean, and basically all the waters in the ocean have microfibers in them. Then they did a study, and I don't know who it was, and I should know that. I'm sorry, I apologize. They did a study on fish meat, not fish guts, fish meat, the stuff we eat. It has microfibers in it. They have shown that the microfibers from polyester and things like this go through the gills, go through the veins, and go into the meat. So when we're eating fish, we now are eating microfibers. So yeah, there's an elephant in the room, and I'm sorry, I don't know that much more about it, but what she's saying is in the new National Geographic. So I'm going to go. Our National Geographic didn't come today. So anyway, but thank you for that. I really appreciate that. But this is something that's on my my screen now as being something I need to be aware of, and it's something that we need to be taking note of. So when you have an option, buy cotton, buy linen. Try not to buy polyester. That's really tough for me. I hate to iron, so I always buy polyester and cotton so I don't have to iron. I don't know. We're going to have to change. Something's happening here. Okay. Americans purchased 346 bottles per person, man, woman, children, in 2015. That's in America. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. In America, we have clean water. We don't have to worry, unless you live in Flint. But if you live where we live, we don't need to be buying bottled water. We really, truly don't. So, okay, now some of that, thankfully, is recycled. And it's recycled into fleeces that we wear, coat fleeces, t-shirts. My partner, he has a t-shirt. It's kind of scratchy, so it doesn't work real well. But anyway, a t-shirt that's made out of plastic bottles, recycled plastic bottles. So recycling is good, but of those 346 bottles per person in 2015, only 9% were recycled. That's abysmal. There's something really wrong here. Really wrong here. The other thing that we have to think about are these things called microplastic, or microbeads. They're called microbeads, sorry. You guys have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yep.
The women are shaking their heads. The men, are any men shaking their heads? Oh, one. What they do is they make these little bitty tiny, teensy tiny pieces of plastic and put them in lotions, and so they exfoliate your cells, your whatever, your skin, and makes you feel right. I don't know. Anyway, this is what they literally make this kind of plastic on purpose and put it in lotions to sell to people. This now is illegal in 7 states. It just was found illegal in California. They just passed it. But it's in Illinois, it's illegal, Indiana, I don't know the other states. But anyway, it's something that we need to stop doing. So when you're going to go buy your night cream or your night lotion, look on it and see if it has microbeads in it. If it does, please don't buy it. Because if you have facial scrub, that's the word I was trying to think of, facial scrub with microbeads, then you wash your hands, it goes into the ocean, and now guess what? So that's a problem too. So plastics are everywhere. 8 million tons of plastics are quote-unquote dumped, get into the oceans every year. 8 million tons. That's a lot of plastics. That's worldwide. That's not just from us. That's worldwide. Okay, so if we have 8 million tons of plastic in the oceans per year, if we assume we have 8 million tons worth of Lego bricks, you know the Legos that your grandkids use all the time? If we had 8 million tons of Lego bricks, we could make life-size Empire State Buildings. We could make 19 of them. That's how much, what I'm trying to do is give you an understanding of how much junk is in the ocean. And this is annually. It's put in annually. And remember, plastics are always there. They just break down into smaller pieces of plastic. It's all there. Every piece of plastic we've ever made still exists. So we have 19 life-size Empire State Buildings every year being dumped into the ocean. Yucko. And here's the gyres. It's because of the motions, the currents in the ocean. The North Pacific gyre is the biggest one, and it has the most garbage in it. But we have 5 gyres throughout the world. But the one that's the big one, the one that affects an awful lot of species, is the North Pacific gyre. But we have one over here too. It's affecting us. Now, I was telling you about toxins. This is a list of toxins that have been found in plastics. And I took this out of the study, and I actually have trouble with it. I bet it isn't DDT, I bet it's DDE. I bet it has actually degraded into DDE. So when I find one mistake, I worry that there may be another mistake in here. But this is what the study gave me, so I decided to put it up and then put in my own caveat saying I'm a little concerned about that. So it probably, anyway, it gives you an idea of what has been found in plastic. Now, we're all old enough. If we swallowed plastics with these toxins in it, it's probably not going to affect us. But our grandchildren or our children, it could. So we don't want to have all of that. So it's not just a plastics issue. That's what I'm trying to get across here. Now, how many people use sea salt? Okay, I want you all to go home and throw it away. They did a study, and they didn't have to use statistics to explain the results. They did a study. Every single piece of sea salt, source of sea salt, that's what I wanted. Every single source of sea salt they tested had plastics in it. So, actually I was getting ready for this talk 2 or 3 days ago, and I got an email from a woman who had seen my talk. I just gave a similar talk to another group, a much shortened version of it. And I had told her, throw out your sea salt. She wrote me back and she started, and in the top, in the reference line, it says, I didn't throw out my sea salt. So I opened it up and she said, I didn't throw out my sea salt. What I did was I put it in a great big bowl and put water in it. And guess what? It was full of plastic. So instead of throwing it away, run your own experiment. Throw your sea salt in a bowl and see how much plastics, microplastics or small plastics, it's very small, actually come out. But you really shouldn't be, for sure, do not be feeding sea salt to your grandchildren. That's for sure. Okay, the other thing that's happening is there's tons and tons, 640 fishing equipment is lost or abandoned in the ocean. So it's not just plastics that we put out there by mistake, the bottles and the plastic bags and things like this. You also have all of this equipment that's out there that's affecting the species that are in the ocean. And that's something else we need to worry about too. Okay, now that tells you a little bit about the facts of plastics. And I'm used to giving talks on climate change. And climate change is a very, very tough topic to talk about because it is so distressing. I have to warn you, this talk is worse. Because what you're seeing is innocent victims. And it's really tough on me when I started pulling this talk together. There are 4 different types of organisms that are strongly affected in the oceans: turtles, seals, whales and dolphins, and fishes. So for turtles, 50% of all sea turtles have ingested some plastics. Sea turtles, not all of them, but many of them, like to eat jellyfishes, and plastic bags look like yummy little jellyfishes to them. Think about their eyesight. It's not that great. So they see this thing floating and they think it's something good to eat. That's what they're going to eat. 15% of loggerhead sea turtle, which is an endangered species and dropping in abundance, 15% of the young die due to ingested plastic. That's a huge number for a species that is endangered. It's a real tough one. This turtle, it's a green sea turtle, is a very lucky turtle because it was seen by the photographer when he was down diving. All this turtle could do was go up to the surface, breathe, and then float back down. And go up to the surface and breathe and float back down. That's all it could do. It couldn't feed anymore. But luckily, the photographer, who had a friend with him, actually captured the turtle, which wasn't hard to do, and disentangled, it must have taken hours to disentangle this poor sea turtle. But this is the type of thing that's happening in the oceans. So seals are very, very playful. That's why we have them in so many aquaria. They love to play with things. Here's one playing with a plastic bottle. The thing that seals also do is they like to go through hoops. That's what's happening to seals. Almost every single species that I could look up had an instance of having some kind of plastics or ropes around them. Here's an example. Here, here, up there. And eventually, they will die because it chafes on their skin, they get bacterial infections, and they will die. But they like to put things around their heads. They do, they get stuck, they can't get them back out. The only way you can get them back out is to tranquilize them and then cut them off. And then that's a tough one too, because then they're so raw underneath, you got to worry about bacteria. Birds, seabirds. 60% of seabirds, this gull was not technically a seabird, I have to tell you that since I'm a bird person, but anyway, ignore that fact. Have eaten plastics. I haven't talked at all about styrofoam. Styrofoam is absolutely god-awful. It's absolutely horrible. A very close friend of mine, who just turned 98, is the person who invented the packing peanut, styrofoam packing peanut. I love him dearly, but I could kill him for the fact that he designed those. Anyway, 60% of seabirds have eaten plastics. That's a huge number, especially when something like 97% of the seabirds in the world are declining. 98% of albatrosses that have been studied have ingested plastics. This is another one of the pictures from Chris Jordan's talk. The head is here. It's an immature lace-on albatross. Again, its parents thought they were being really good parents. Here's just showing you the abundance. On the x-axis is time, on the y-axis is abundance. This is for a gray-headed albatross, this is for a wandering albatross. It could be for any albatross. All albatrosses' abundances are dropping. And we are part of that reason. So fishes are another group. Here, a very innocuous thing, like a rubber band, thrown into the ocean, gets around this poor little fish. The rest of his life, look, he's getting chafed here. The rest of his life, he has to live that way. That's a toughie. So just in northern Pacific, per year we have between 12 to 24,000 tons of plastic ingested by fish. I hate this picture, but anyway, there's 2/3 of the fish stock actually have plastics in them. 2/3 of our fish stocks have plastics in them. And not just fishes, but even the sharks are having to deal with what we're doing. This is what we are doing. 100% of the sperm whales that have been necropsy is just a term for autopsy. Autopsy means you're doing it on a human. Necropsy means you're doing it on an animal. But 100% of the necropsied sperm whales have had plastic bags in their stomach. And I believe it was a sperm whale, but don't hold me to that it may not be the case, but I believe it was. There was a sperm whale or some kind of whale that washed up on the shore in Australia. They did a necropsy. It had 68 pounds of plastic bags in its stomach. 68 pounds. Trying to live that way. And this is the other thing, that you have buoys. The buoy is up there. It's trying to get around. It's going down. It's gotten captured. Think about trying to get through all the buoys that we have out in the Gulf. They get entangled. And that's now their fate. That's how they have to live the rest of their lives. See, I told you this was a really depressing part of the talk. This is a very happy one. This is a baby. This is its mom right here. They caught the baby was dragging a buoy. They caught the baby. The mom came along, tried to do something. They caught the mom. They have them now in this area that was protected. And now they're trying to get this baby disentangled. And there's lots of videos on YouTube showing disentanglement. The disentanglement's a very dangerous thing to do. There have been many people who have disentangled whales, and then the whale gets free and flaps its tail and kills the person who disentangled it. Didn't mean to, but that's what happened. So you got to let the professionals do it. If you see an animal that is damaged, call and tell the Coast Guard. That's what you do. And the Coast Guard will get an aquarium to go out and help. Now, this is now not on in the ocean. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about species that are on the land. This is a shorebird. This is an oyster catcher. It got its bill caught in something it no longer could eat. Actually, I have an interesting story. I have Florida sandhill cranes at my house, and I would have these two sandhill cranes always coming out to the house. And then one day, came by, and it had something hanging on its bill. And so I walked over, it was the male, I walked over to him, and he stood there, he didn't run away. And I put my hand out, and he came over, and then he ran away. And it took me about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, to the place where I would put my hand out, and I actually then could grab the plastic, it was a piece of plastic, and I would tug on it. I never got it off, but I tugged on it maybe 3 or 4 days. I mean, he would get panicked.